and welcome back to Happening by Chance. My name is Mariana and today we are going to try a fun spread that I really liked and I wanted to try out from the guidebook of one of the decks that I bought this year. And that is the Goblin Market spread that comes in the guidebook of the Goblin Market Tarot. I am not going to gush over this tarot. I did that in a video I did recently, a tag I did recently, the Show Us Your Decks. But I adore this deck. I really like what I have seen from the guidebook. I haven't read it in its entirety, but at the end there is the Goblin Market spread, and it's exactly the type of spread that I like, which is a spread that doesn't have fixed positions, meaning that it doesn't have a question per position, and also it is based on storytelling and fantasy and playing pretend. So yeah, I want to try it out. Now I want to try out using the Goblin Market Tarot, but the Goblin Market Tarot has really big cards. They are this size like the guidebook, so they are not going to fit on screen. So what I did was this. So these cards that you see here are placeholders for the spread. I shuffle the cards off screen with my question in mind that I will explain in a second. I shuffle them and I lay them out in the order that they are supposed to be laid out. It's on a zigzag. I will show you in a minute. So I laid them out like that, and then I just, without turning them around, I place them in the order. I did a pile in the order that they are supposed to go. I haven't seen them, so what I'm going to do is that I'm going to be going through the positions and showing you the cards one by one, because one of the things that this spread calls for is turning around the cards one by one, which is something that I don't normally do. As you know, I read the cards as a whole, but for this particular spread it works, and for the way that it is set up, it works. And as I said, it's very much like playing pretend, like fantasy, like storytelling, so I really enjoy how it's done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to predict the plot of a book that I am going to read. I am not going to tell you what book it is right now, but I will tell you at the end of the video in case you are curious. I'm not going to tell you right now because it's a very popular fantasy series, not a new series, but it is popular and a lot of people read it, and so I don't want to give any spoilers or anything. I am not going to talk in detail, but if you happen to be reading the series and I talk generally about certain themes, you might know what it is. So I have been reading this series for a while and I am ready to read the final book. So I thought it would be fun to try to predict the plot of the final book before I started reading it, because I know the characters so well. I know like the overarching plot really well, and so I felt like that would be perfect to do like a prediction, because I know enough context to try it out. So I'm going to show you the spread. As I said, it's the Goblin Market spread. As you can see, this is how I have laid out the cards. And the idea is that this is like a goblin market. Yeah, literally, like if you are in a market. So as you can see, the cards are laid out as if they were stalls in a market. So this place is for the significator. This deck comes with two significators that are my favorite part of the deck, and they are the one who went into fairy and the one who stayed behind. This is perfect for the series that I'm reading because the other world is involved but not in every book. So what I'm going to do with the significators is try to predict if the protagonist of the final book will be going into fairy or if she won't be going into fairy with the significators. So after you pull the significator, then you place the cards like this. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 is the conclusion. And the reason why they are placed like in zigzag is because the idea is that this is like going through a market. Like if you go to an artisan market or a flea market or a farmer's market, you I mean, I am the kind of person that goes in order style by style, but in general you would be like going from stall to stall. So that is the idea. It's like the significator is going on a journey stall by stall in the market. And so the idea is that as you turn the cards individually, it's like what are you finding in that stall, but in a metaphoric sense, in terms of a journey, like what is coming up for you, as if you were going through a market. And then the final one is the conclusion. So I'm going to do two things that I don't normally do, but I wanted to try out because it sounds fun. The first thing is that I am going to be turning the cards one by one. The second thing is that once I turn the card, I'm going to read from the booklet what it says about the card. You know, I mostly read with Marseille, with historical, with pips, and when I don't, I read them pretty much like I would read a pip deck. And I have a technique that I use, so that's usually what I do. I'm not a big guidebook person when it comes to coming up with meanings for the cards, but in this case, because of the type of deck, because of the type of spread, I really want to do it. So that's what I'm going to do. So enough with the introduction, let's go ahead and start. So the first one that I'm going to do is the significator, and actually this one I am going to be shuffling on screen because it's literally just two cards. So okay, I am thinking about the protagonist of, oh hold on, sorry, I was checking if I was on frame. I am thinking about the protagonist of this final book in the series that I am reading, and I want to know if they will be going into fairy or if they are not going to be going into fairy for this final book of the series. As I said at the end of the video, I will tell you which book it is in case you are curious, and in case you don't want to know, then you can just skip it. If you're a fantasy reader and you like reading series of fantasy, then you know, you can decide at the end depending on how much in detail I get when I do the reading. I won't know until I actually do the reading. So thinking about them, are they going to go into fairy? Let's see. Okay, thinking about them. I think it's this one. Okay, let's see. The one who went into fairy. Okay, thank God, because I really want the final book to be in the other world. So that would be this card right here. So the one that went into fairy. Okay, so the protagonist of the last book will go into fairy. Okay, so now that we have the significator, we are going to move to the first stall of the market. I have my pile here, and as I said, it is in order, and I haven't actually turned the cards around. So let's see what is in store for the protagonist of the book. The first card, the first stall of the Goblin Market is 6 of Crowns. Okay, so let's see what it says for the 6 of Crowns in the guidebook. So first of all, the suit of crowns, traditionally swords, associated Goblin Market fruit apples, associated element air, Goblin whispers ideas, intellect, planning, ambition, belief, sowing of seeds, sharpness of mind, struggle. Concerned with strife and the struggle to grow and change, the suit of crowns in this Goblin Market deck replaces the more traditional tarot suit of swords. So for me, it makes sense that the crowns are swords, because when I think of crowns, I think of power. And you know, power can be heavy. And if you think of a monarch in terms of like a traditional medieval monarch, for instance, you think of conflict, you think of wars, you think of swords, you think of knights, and it can be heavy, it can be a burden. So it makes sense to me that they are swords. If I were reading a pip deck where I go by function, that would be the function of the crown for me. Power, burden, that type of a thing. Conflict, yeah, that type of a thing. Like swords, crowns have long been associated with struggle and conflict, as leaders seek to overwhelm their rivals. And in the world of fairy, we often hear of conflict between rival courts, some of whom respect the humans, while others feel animosity towards us. I really love it. It's what I was saying, right? Like crowns associated with monarchs, power, conflict. So let's see what it says of the 6 of Crowns. Oh, I just wanted to mention that in the guidebook, it does have an explanation of why each fruit was chosen for each suit, and kind of like associations in mythology and history and stuff for each of the fruits. So that is super interesting. Okay, 6 of Crowns. The casual insouciance of the goblin in this 6 of Crowns card fits well with its essential meaning, which is all about journeys. There are so many reasons that we might undertake a journey. It may be to another country, to a new place, work, idea, or it can be okay. I'm not going to read everything because I'm going to be here forever. I was going to read everything because I really don't like when people do videos and they say I'm not going to read anything. However, I don't have time to film a super long video, so I think this gives us enough of an idea. The upside meaning is journey, travel, holiday, messenger, moving away from safety, and the downside is immobility, revelation, surprise, feeling lost. See, this is why I don't read reversals, because basically they both mean the same thing. Like immobility, revelation. Like those would be opposites for me. Conceptually, in the upside, journey, travel, holiday, messenger, and then moving away from safety. So like holiday for me is opposite as moving away from safety conceptually. You would expect the opposites to be the upright and the downside, but there are opposites within each side. So it's all about journeys, and that can be in a light way or in a shadow way, in a danger way or in a holiday way, and it makes sense. Honestly, for any book, right, that the protagonist of a story starts with a journey, whether physical or metaphorical. In this case, I think it's going to be both. Oh my god, I was scared that I wasn't filming. I feel like after the Gilmore Girls fiasco, I'm going to be paranoid for a while. So now we are going to move to the second stall of the market, and I have my pile here. So the second stall is Knight of Crowns. So we start with the Six of Crowns. Now we have the Knight of Crowns. Before I check in the book, I just want to say, because for me, because I read often in a very traditional sense, not always, but often, and in this case, for this particular question, the traditional meaning of the courts is what makes sense. Because usually, traditionally, the courts would represent people. But in this particular case, for this particular question, I am going to say that it's going to show up early on in the story, and that is because in this series there is a heavy element of romance in every book. So I bet there will be early on a knight in shining armor that shows up, and they are of the same suit, they are of crowns, which to me tells me that they are going to be related to the conflict. Now, the fantasy reader in me really wants this to mean that if the protagonist is going into fairy and there is going to be conflict in fairy, then the knight that they are going to meet is going to be involved with the fairy conflict. Not necessarily with the court, but with the conflict. So that is exciting for me as a reader. Okay, so I'm just going to read like the keywords. So bravery, skill, strength, heroic action, championing a cause, imprudence, concern, impulsive actions, restrictive rules. Okay. So both sides do represent the type of characters that feature in this story, and honestly the downside is making me think that there is going to be some fun banter for the romance. So here's hoping. Oh my god, we are only in stall 2. Why do I talk so much? Let's move to stall 3 of the market. I have my pile here, and it is the 5 of Wands. Okay, so here wands are wands. Okay, the Three of Wands is associated with enterprise, determination, passion, energy, impulsiveness, volatility. So it says the main thrust of these cards' meaning is wealth and abundance in every aspect of life. Although it is therefore well aspected, there is an inherent danger that overconfidence or excessive pride could lead to a breakdown in communication and lesser degree of success. Let's hope that doesn't mean the miscommunication trope, which is my least favorite trope in books. And it says success, abundance, overwhelming pride, rivalry, luxury, conflict, dispute, connection, challenge, turnabout. So it's kind of the same thing, right? So there is conflict, but there is also abundance. So if we are talking about the fairy courts, which we will be talking if we go into fairy, because there is a powerful fairy involved in the story, there will be abundance, there will be power, but there will also be conflict and overconfidence. So far it's making sense, and it's like, so far it's a book that I would love to read, save for the miscommunication if it is indeed involved. Let's now move to stall number 4. I have my pile here, and I feel like anyway, it is the 7 of Crowns, so crowns again. So I do think that we will be dealing with the fairy courts. I do believe that the final book will be involving the the power courts, the power struggles of fairy. This is being on point so far, honestly. So Seven of Crowns. Seven of Crowns. This card is all about finding hope in the most dire circumstances after the succession of difficult cards in this suit. Something of a relief, freedom. He spreads his wings to fly. Okay, so hope, new plans, perseverance, self-belief, realization of dreams, advice, instruction, warning, slander. Okay, so again, in terms of a storytelling, it makes sense because that's always like the arc of a story, right? So we begin with some conflict, and then we find our knight that will help us with the conflict, because again, that's very much the format of these stories. And there will be like tackling some kind of power, which may lead to either abundance or struggle. I am assuming that it's going to lead towards struggle, because after that we have this card, which is kind of like the hopefulness after the struggle of we can do this, and there will be some sort of a plan to resolve the conflict. And there's this first moment of like we can do this in a story. Will that hold? Won't that hold? Let's see. So let's move on to style number 5. I have my pile here, and style number 5 is 8 of Wands. We had 5 of Wands, then 7 of Crowns, and now 8 of Wands. So we are kind of like moving between the Wands and the Crowns. So, fire, conflict, but also power, abundance. I'm liking the story. Okay, so let's see what it says about the 8 of Wands. 8 of Wands. After the struggle to succeed in the 7 of Wands comes the respite of this card. The satisfaction of a job well done with time to rest and reflect. Appreciation, progress, completion, luck, rapid development, recreation, festivities, quarrels, doubt, domestic dispute, jealousy, regret. Okay, so the respite and the festivities make me think that there will be some sort of event. These books take place in older Ireland when it's Erin, the island of Erin, and there are a lot of celebrations done in the books. There are druids involved, and so there are often celebrations, traditional celebrations in these books. So maybe this final book will involve one of those celebrations. Maybe after the hopefulness of the 7 of Crowns, where it's like, yes, we can do this, we can resolve the conflict. It will be the point in the story when it's like, okay, so everything is better now, so we do the festivities, but then there is a downfall, which is, part of like the reversed meaning or the shadowy meaning of this card. And the keyword that says domestic dispute does lead me to think that this is where there will also be some conflict with the romance. The romances have been hit or miss in this series, so let's see how this one will go. Oh, and this was here. So it's like the halfway point, right? So let's move on to style number 6 and take our pile, and it is Seven of Cups. So this is the first time we have seen cups. And cups are usually involved with emotions and that kind of a thing. Let's look for them. So the suit of cups, strawberries, water, home, love, family, sentiment, devotion, nostalgia, yearning. And the seven of cups looks to be like a happy card based on the image. This is a card for dreamers, those who fashion wonderful castles from clouds that may all too soon melt away. It reminds you to be careful not to become too enraptured by your own plans, nor too delighted by your own thoughts. That is interesting because it does fit with what I was saying about that point in stories when everyone thinks that everything is going all right. Maybe there's some like delusion in that sense. There was some conflict with romance, and as I said, the romances have been kind of hit or miss. So based on like the author's track record, I'm thinking maybe the protagonist is going to think, oh, they have overcome the conflicts, maybe they don't need this other person, and then they're, I don't know, like delusion, right? Delusion, and they're eventually going to find out that they can't live without this other person. And I'm saying it in those tones because even though I'm a big romance fan and I do love a good happily ever after, sometimes this author can get a little bit too saccharine for me. We'll see. I'm kind of skeptical about the romance based on the cards that are coming out. Hopefully I'm wrong. Plans, flights of fancy, illusion of success, over imagination, false plans, aspirations, desire, willpower, determination. Oh, also, this doesn't necessarily have to do with a romance, right? In terms of the story, it's this thing that I was saying of everyone is overly confident that they solved the problem. Maybe they defeated whoever they're trying to defeat, but not really, right? This is telling us, okay, you're getting overconfident. Don't celebrate too early. Let's move on to stall number 8, which is Lord of Cups. Okay, now see, we are moving into the cups. And to me, that just speaks about this element that I was saying, where there is this moment of respite in the story. The Goblin Lord of Cups is generous, talented, compassionate, and overflowing with confidence. Again, this overflowing of confidence. He might be a figure in your life, such as an artist, a banker, a priest, or a doctor in whom you place much trust. Okay, so anyone in whom you place much trust. At a basic level, he represents the kind of person who inspires others, offering sympathy and generosity to all. However, he can at times be unwilling or unable to share emotional bonds. Downside, he can become weak and vacillating friend and an unstable partner, whether in business or in love. Honesty, integrity, kindness, equality, a scientist, an artist. So let's move on to card number 8. Stall number 8. And we have the pile here, and it is 6 of Wands. See, we are going back to the Wands, back to the fire. So the image here seems to be there is some relaxation here, flying in the clouds, but there is fire building underneath. So we are coming out of this overconfident stage and we are going back to the fire that is building underneath which is probably going to mean the resolution, the conclusion of the conflict of the series. Family life, housekeeping, good news and messages, progress, triumph, and infidelity, treachery, disloyalty, betrayal, delays, bad service. So here we have a much more clearer dichotomy of like everything is good, and then there's this like betrayal type of a thing, which I think will involve the Knight of Crowns. So here's what I'm hoping slash predicting slash hoping for the story. I'm hoping that means that the romance is going to involve a fairy being, a fae being. And fae beings tend to be treacherous, so maybe there will be something like that involved with a character that is maybe like struggling with their allegiances. That would make for a very interesting and potentially bantery and passionate romance. So let's move on to the final stage. 9 stall 9, and we have our pile here. So let's see, and we have the Lord of Crowns. Okay, so now I'm thinking, oh, I was going to move this. No, we are going to have the confrontation or resolution with the Lord of Crowns, with the Lord of Fairy. I am being again hopeful slash prediction slash hopeful that means that the knight is potentially involved in the fairy court and potentially has a place that is close to the Lord of Crowns. Whether that be because they are part of their entourage, let's say, or because they're part of, like they're related, that would be super fun for me. If I feel like I've been wanting that since the beginning. Also, I'm thinking maybe the knight refers to one of the characters that we already know that is involved with the Lord of Crowns, because I'm thinking the Lord of Crowns means a character that we need to confront by the end of the series. So maybe the knight is a character from a previous book. Okay, so either way, it does come to a final confrontation with the Lord of Crowns, who is a character that we have seen throughout this series. And then we move to style number 10, which is 6 of Cups, and this one looks like success, like moving towards a place of happiness, a place of abundance, a place of family, a place of home, because they are the cups, right? And they are moving towards the future. So after the potential confrontation with the Lord of Crowns, we are going to move, and let's see, I'm going to leave the cards here now that we are at the end. Let's see what the conclusion of the book will be. Okay, so the Knight of Cups makes complete sense because romance. As I said, these books are very much geared towards romance, towards happily ever after, towards family, and that kind of a thing. And ultimately, and this is something I've been discussing a lot with a friend about this series, where ultimately the stakes do lie more on the romance than on the overarching plot. So like it makes sense that the resolution with the Lord of Crowns comes before the resolution with the romance, where we are having this Knight of Cups in one knee, which to me spells happily ever after, especially in the context of this book. And if the earlier knight is indeed the knight from the Romans, then it's this transformation, right? From the Knight of Crowns to the Knight of Cups. So maybe it will be a character that is one of these characters that at first they are all about their duty, and then they end up being all about their love. In the end, they choose love over duty. Maybe that is where the conclusion is headed. Hopefully this conclusion will be interesting, because at this point I'm more interested in the overarching plot than the romance. So this was fun, and I feel like it was very on point for the book. I hope it was fun for you. If I remember, I will let you know if this prediction was correct. If you don't want to know what the series is, then you can tune out. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a good week. I will see you soon with another video. And in the meantime, I wish you happy reading, whether that be card reading, book reading, charm reading, weather patterns, dice, whatever forms of reading you prefer. And if you are interested in seeing what book it was, what series it was, then here it goes. The series I'm talking about is the Sevenwaters series by Julliet Marillier, and the book I'm talking about is The Flame of Sevenwaters. So this is a 6-book series that is divided into 2 trilogies. The book I'm referring is book 6, so the final book in the second trilogy of the Sevenwaters series. If anyone has read it, don't tell me if I'm right, but also we can talk about it in terms of what did you think about the first trilogy compared to the second trilogy. I would be curious to know. But yeah, that would be it. Thank you so much for watching, and same as everything I just said, happy reading, etc. I will see you soon with another video.